What if you could stop giving those generic answers in technical interviews? What if you could explain every complex migration, every security fix, every single automation project in Microsoft 365 as a clear, impactful 90-second story that hiring managers just can't forget?
That really is the universal challenge, isn't it, for so many technical
That's
professionals?
a huge gap.
A huge gap. We talked to, countless candidates, M365 administrators, security architects, Power Platform developers, and they have these incredible advanced skills. They can script anything in PowerShell or the Graph
Oh,
API.
absolutely.
But then you ask them a behavioral question, something like, tell me about a time you solved a compliance issue, and they struggle. They find it really hard to articulate the business impact of their work.
They know how to build it.
Exactly. They know how to build it, but they often don't know how to sell the story of what they built.
Well, that communication gap is precisely why we're doing this deep dive. Our source material today is the really insightful Bemanda Technology training material on Microsoft 365 STAR Method Full Practical Workshop.
A fantastic resource.
It is. And our mission today is simple. We're going to distill that entire technical workshop into a concise, actionable framework just for you. Think of this as your shortcut to mastering those behavioral questions, specifically using your M365 expertise.
And every great story needs structure. So the foundation, according to this deep dive material, is the STAR method. We should probably be crystal clear on what that stands for. It's situation, task, action, and result.
I like to think of STAR as a storyboard for your professional achievements. Each frame, moves the plot forward. It forces you to go smoothly from the context, the S, to your responsibility, the T, then showing your initiative with A, and finally, delivering that quantified payoff with R.
It ensures you never leave the outcome vague.
Exactly. Or the action undefined. So let's unpack that framework, because when you're talking to a seasoned technical interviewer, they aren't just listening for you to say the letters STAR, they're listening for very specific M365 keywords inside each part of that story.
Absolutely. Let's start with the S situation. This is where you set the scene, you establish the high stakes, but you have to keep it brief. What technical interviewers are listening for here is context and scale.
Context and scale. So what does that actually mean?
It means specific details. We're talking number of users, the licensing model, are we talking E3 or E5, the urgency of the timeline, and the clear business risk that was on the table.
So an ideal opening, based on the training, isn't something vague like, my last company had a problem. No. It's specific, it's technical, and it establishes your credibility instantly. Something like, a 12,000-seat global manufacturing tenant running on Microsoft 365 E5 was facing an immediate high-priority ISO 27001 security audit with a 4-week deadline.
And that E5 mention is so critical.
Why that specifically?
Well, it signals to the interviewer that you get it. You understand the highest tier of licensing and all the advanced tools that come with it, like Defender or Compliance Manager. But, and this is the common pitfall, don't spend 45 seconds giving the company's whole history.
Right. State the stakes and move on.
Exactly.
Okay, so that brings us to T for task. This is where we shift from what was the problem to what was your job. The Bemanda materials really stress ownership here. You have to define your specific personal responsibility.
And this is where we have to get into that whole we versus I debate. Why is it so crucial to say I?
That's a great challenge because in the M365 world, everything is collaborative.
Everything is a team effort.
But the interviewer isn't hiring the team. They're hiring you. The source material is really clear on this. While collaboration is obviously important, that task statement has to clarify your unique contribution.
Precisely. So instead of saying, we had to roll out Intune, you need to declare, I own the entire Intune MAM MDM rollout for 8,000 mobile devices, specifically ensuring zero service disruption to our field sales staff.
And just by saying MAM and MDM, you're already proving something.
You're proving you understand that crucial security distinction between managing the app and managing the whole device. You've just shown you were the driver.
Okay, now for the A action. This is your moment. This is your chance to prove you have the technical competence, the real chops, to back up your claim. You have to name the specific M365 tools, the scripting languages, or the platforms you personally touched.
Absolutely. Did you use the SharePoint Admin Center, PowerShell, the Graph API, Power Automate, CLI? You need to be granular. For example, just mentioning the Microsoft Graph PowerShell SDK is immediately powerful.
Why is that so critical, mentioning the SDK or Graph?
Because it tells the interviewer that you think programmatically, you think at scale. You're not just, clicking around in the admin portal. It shows maturity.
That makes sense.
Think of Power Automate, for instance. Love the analogy from the course. It's like the stage crew behind the scenes, making sure every repetitive process, every cue runs on time, completely invisible to the end user.
So a powerful action statement might sound like this. I scripted the necessary configuration changes using the Microsoft Graph PowerShell SDK to demote over 400 external high-privilege accounts, ensuring audit compliance without triggering mass user communications.
See, that's technical. It's specific, and it shows deep initiative.
And finally, that brings us to R, the result. This is the payoff, and it must be quantifiable.
Yes. Forget it worked well or it got better. We need hard numbers, measurable business outcomes. What became the new standard because of your work?
This is where credibility really kicks in. Which sounds better. I reduced the number of times people called the help desk, or I reduced help desk tickets related to application access by 68% in the first quarter.
The 68% every single time. We're looking for specifics like achieved a 99.2% compliance score in the security baseline, or maybe cut license costs by $150,000 annually through E3 optimization. The STAR method turns these routine, invisible tasks into measurable, high-impact stories that really shine.
Okay, quick summary then. Situation sets the stakes with technical context. Task defines your personal ownership. Action proves your technical chops with named tools and result. That's where you quantify the business payoff.
Okay, theory is great, but let's make this real. We need to actually hear what a perfect M365 STAR story sounds like when you combine all these elements.
Right.
Let's tackle that first big case study from the materials. A classic migration scenario.
Right. So the situation was a 5,000 user manufacturing company, and they were still running on Exchange 2013. They needed a complete cloud migration in 8 weeks, and that was a non-negotiable deadline with zero downtime before their hardware warranty expired.
High stakes, clear timeline, perfect start.
And the actions here were a great mix of both infrastructure work and user adoption strategy. They used Microsoft's fast-track migration batches, built a really robust hybrid setup, leveraging Azure AD Connect, specifically with password hash synchronization, PHS.
For the seamless sign-on, another key technical term to drop in there.
Exactly. But wait, get this. They also ran 25 in-person lunch and learn sessions.
25. Wow, that sounds like a lot of pizza and a huge time commitment.
It is. And that's the point. It shows the candidate understood that the best technical fix is useless without a human adoption strategy. They also created a custom Power Automate flow. It didn't just auto-provision OneDrive for new users. It also sent personalized welcome emails with quick start guides to manage that human side.
Okay, so that's the action. What was the powerful result?
They completed the entire cutover 2 weeks early. They achieved an outstanding 98% OneDrive adoption rate in just 60 days, which proves success way beyond just technical completion. And critically, they saved the client $180,000 a year in maintenance and energy costs.
That is a fantastic story. It hits technical targets, project management, and financial outcomes. That shows true cross-app integration. We often use an analogy for the M365 tools. Teams is your conversation stage, SharePoint is the archive, and Planner is the script. The value is proving how you orchestrated all of those pieces.
Let's look at a security example next. Case study 2 from the materials. Teams, governance, and compliance. The situation here was pretty alarming. A routine audit found over 400 external guest users had permanent owner rights in sensitive financial teams.
Oof. That's a major regulatory exposure, especially with an external ISO 27001 audit just weeks away.
Right.
So the actions had to be aggressive and surgical. The consultant didn't just mess around in the portal, the story goes. I wrote a PowerShell and Graph script to scan, identify, and demote all guests who hadn't logged in for 90 days. Then I applied sensitivity labels to the affected teams to enforce encryption, created Azure AD access reviews for future governance, and rolled out communication compliance policies.
That's a deep, multi-layered action plan, not just one fix.
And the result? It was immediate and powerful. They reduced those external high-privilege accounts from over 400 down to just 8. Sensitive data exposure dropped 94% according to the Security Center dashboard. And the big one, they passed the ISO 27001 audit with 0 major findings.
That story just proves capacity for high-stakes technical scripting and regulatory compliance. It's brilliant.
All right, let's take a moment for some coaching. We really need to demonstrate how to fix a vague answer in real time.
Okay, let's role play. I'll be the nervous candidate. My weak example is, we had some problems with people sharing files externally a while back. So I turned on some DLP policies in the Compliance Center, and, after a few weeks, it got better.
Okay. That is a classic weak answer. Where do we even start to dissect that one?
Well, we start with the lack of definition. What was the situation? Was it 5 documents or 5,000? And what was the task? Did you own the fix, or were you just running reports for someone else? The action is so vague. Turned on some DLP policies. Which ones? What was the scope?
And most critically, the result is non-existent. Got better isn't a metric. It offers zero proof of impact. It's completely forgettable.
So to fix that, we need to inject ownership, specific M365 tools, and metrics. You go ahead and try the improved version.
Okay, here we go. A quarterly audit, S, showed 15% of our high-risk PII documents, that's personally identifiable information, were being shared externally via OneDrive links, creating a potential $100,000 fine risk. My task, T, was to reduce that specific high-risk external sharing exposure by 75% in the current quarter. My action A involved implementing custom DLP policies specifically scooped to sensitivity labels across our finance documents, which I then rigorously monitored and refined using the DLP Compliance Center reporting features. The result was a reduction in high-risk external shares by 78% in Q2, as verified by the Power BI dashboard I configured, which completely eliminated the regulatory exposure.
Wow. That is a night and day difference. It's personal, it's precise, and it's quantified with multiple tools. That shift in ownership, and especially using that 78% metric, that makes it stick.
Now we need to stress the most crucial constraint, which the practical training materials repeat constantly. Mastery is about brevity. You absolutely must keep the total star answer to a firm 60 to 100 seconds.
100 seconds is so tight. That means you have, what, about 25 seconds for the situation and task combined, and then maybe 50 seconds for the action or result.
Exactly. And if you go past 2 minutes, the source material warns that you will be cut off by interviewers in these high-stakes, fast-paced technical interviews. You have to practice this cadence until it's just muscle memory. It's not a monologue. It's a tight, quantified argument.
So let's revisit the pitfalls to avoid, especially with that timing. First, using too much we instead of I. We covered that. Second, giving vague actions like, I fixed a few things, or it worked well.
Then third, spending so much time detailing the situation that you rush, or even worse, skip the measurable result. Always, always finish strong with the numbers.
Right.
Let's talk about applying this framework to trickier scenarios, because often interviewers will ask non-technical behavioral questions. For example, tell me about a time you had to convince non-technical stakeholders, executives, legal, HR, to adopt a new M365 feature or policy.
Okay, in that case, the STAR framework doesn't change, but the focus of your action segment shifts entirely. Your action isn't about scripting anymore. It's about influence, communication, and demonstrating risk mitigation in plain language.
Right. For instance, your action might be, I developed a 3-slide, non-technical deck showing the executive team the $100,000 risk of our current external sharing settings compared to the $10,000 cost of a compliance label rollout. I secured their buy-in during a 15-minute presentation.
Or how about this one? Describe a difficult conversation about M365 limitations. We've all faced those.
Your result there is about professional negotiation. It could be something like, though we couldn't deliver the requested feature due to a critical limitation of SharePoint Online Search, I successfully convinced the client to adopt a more secure, supported workaround. I documented it in a new Teams tab, which reduced the potential deployment time by 4 weeks and increased long-term stability.
So you're turning a failure to deliver into a win for security and efficiency.
You've reframed the entire outcome.
So let's encourage you, the listener, to apply this immediately. Revision question 1. How can you apply the STAR method to describe a Microsoft 365 success story you had involving Power Automate and SharePoint integration? Think specifically about the time or the manual effort you eliminated.
And revision question 2. We talked about Power BI and the Compliance Center. What other Microsoft 365 tools, maybe like Viva Insights, could help you effectively measure and quantify the results stage of your STAR story? The tools to track your success are probably already there. You just need to reference them to boost your credibility.
So to sum up our deep dive today, the STAR method provides the structure, and your detailed Microsoft 365 expertise provides the powerful, quantifiable technical evidence. You're merging behavioral science with hard, technical proof.
And your action plan, straight from the Bamando Workshop homework, is non-negotiable if you really want to master this. First, tonight, write out full STAR answers for 5 of your real M365 projects. Second, tomorrow, record yourself speaking them out loud on your phone and time them. Aim firmly for that 70 to 100-second sweet spot.
You now have the framework to be in the top 10% of candidates on behavioral questions. The very best candidates don't just have the skills. They can prove their impact with clear, quantified stories.
So start writing your next story today, because once you can quantify your impact, you change the entire professional conversation about your career.